Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay more than $500 million after the first ever trial addressing who's to blame for the opioid crisis. An Oklahoma judge ruled yesterday that misleading marketing led to addictions and deadly overdoses of opioids. The consumer products giant plans to appeal the $572 million verdict. Omar Villafranca is at the courthouse in Norman, Oklahoma. Omar, how's the company reacting?
Well, good morning. The company is calling the judge's ruling flawed, but the state of Oklahoma and their attorneys say they're prepared to defend this case all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Now, there are thousands of other similar cases set to go to trial, and attorneys in those cases are calling this decision a milestone.
The opioid crisis has ravaged the state of Oklahoma. It must be abated immediately.
With those words, District Judge Thad Balkman ordered Johnson & Johnson and its subsidiary Janssen Pharmaceuticals to pay $572 million in damages, ruling the company's opioid marketing was false, deceptive, and misleading, exponentially increasing rates of addiction and overdose deaths, which total more than 4,600, according to Attorney General Mike Hunter.
Johnson & Johnson, motivated by greed and avarice, is responsible for the opioid epidemic in our state.
The judge agreed that Johnson & Johnson created a public nuisance, unlawfully doing an act which injures or endangers the health or safety of others.
I feel like my boy's looking down.
State Attorney Reggie Whitten says he lost his son to opioid addiction.
My son was a good boy that got sick, and we didn't know what to do. I know what caused it now.
We have sympathy for all who suffer from substance abuse.
Johnson & Johnson attorney Sabrina Strong says the verdict presents serious constitutional problems.
I think the nation's opioid abuse crisis is a serious public health issue. Nobody disputes that. But you can't sue your way out of the opioid abuse crisis.
Some 2,000 similar lawsuits have been consolidated involving state and local governments. They begin to go to trial before a federal judge in Ohio this fall. In a statement, lawyers for those cases say the Oklahoma judgment is a milestone amid the mounting evidence against the opioid pharmaceutical industry.
These companies knew what was going on at the highest level. They just couldn't quit making money from it, and that's why they're responsible.
Johnson & Johnson says the state disregarded 100 years of legal precedent when they were arguing the public nuisance in this case. And they also added that the decision here in Oklahoma will not affect the federal cases going forward. Tony?
Omar, two other companies were originally named in this suit. What happened to them?
Both decided to actually settle before the trial. You had Purdue Pharma. They settled for $270 million. Teva Pharmaceuticals for $85 million. Neither admitted any wrongdoing. Johnson & Johnson is having to pay $572 million, basically double what Purdue had to pay, and they're going to have the stigma of having a judge ruling against the company.
They do say they will appeal, though. Omar, thank you very much.